Good morning. Welcome to St. David's. Please be seated. I would like to extend a special welcome to anybody who is new or visiting with us this morning, and a very special welcome and thanks to Zoe Watson, who is our special guest speaker today. We're used to seeing Zoe in our choir. However, today she is sharing another talent with us. She's going to be sharing some words of experience and wisdom with us during our reflection time. So we greatly appreciate you being here, Zoe, to share that with us today. Our worship service today is being led by members of our Affirmation Committee, and I want to say thank you to all of them for agreeing to lead the service today. We have music, special music being shared, and it's going to be, hopefully, a very enjoyable service for all of you. Margaret Atkinson is chair of the committee. She's unable to be here this morning as she's doing some grandmother duties in Toronto. So she's spending some time, well-deserved time, with her grandbaby in Toronto. So we have a very busy season coming upon us starting next week, and a number of announcements that we're going to try to get through very quickly this morning. Spirit of Giving, once again, we are partnering with students and families from Rossay High School to help make Christmas a little bit brighter for many of the students. We have a total of 21 students and their siblings this year that we are helping for Christmas. Thank you to all who have taken tags and stockings off our display in the narthex. All items are due by December the 13th, and if anybody has any questions on this, please talk to me after the service. Today during the service, I'm going to ask the middle school and high school class to remain in church, and our white gift service is going to be held on December 10th. The children have been practicing for this service, as it's always their pageant as well, for the last few weeks, but today we're going to be practicing during Sunday school, but we're also asking all children to come to the sanctuary for just 15 to 20 minutes after the service so we can practice with the microphones and sound equipment. Next Sunday evening, December 3rd at 7 p.m. is our annual Celebration of Light service. It's a service of music and memory and lighting our very special Christmas tree. A tree whose lights will burn with the same brilliance as those that we've loved and lost. And we pray that our celebration of lights will rekindle the spirit of hope, peace, love, and joy with you this holiday season. On Wednesday, December 6th at 6:30 p.m., we're inviting children and families and anybody who would like to join us to come for St. Nicholas Night, an evening to spend time with Santa, hear of the story and the history of St. Nicholas, cookies, milk, and apple cider, and photos that night as well. On Sunday, December 10th, we will be having a soup luncheon. This lunch serves as a free thank you for all of your support of the various projects and efforts of St. David's throughout this year. Our youth group is going to be gathering tonight at 6:30 p.m. We have a special guest, and we're going to be making plans for upcoming events. So I encourage all the youth to come and join us tonight. Margaret, you have an announcement this morning.
Good morning, everyone. For the young people in the congregation, I'm Margaret Prime, the president of the UCW. And I'm here to announce the bake sale that will be held on the 10th after church. And we would be happy to receive any contributions from anybody in the congregation. Doesn't have to be baked things. It could be a jar of pickles or jam or salsa, anything, beans. Anything that you'd like to eat, I'm sure somebody would purchase. If you could have them at the church on the 9th by 2 o'clock and take them into the parlor or the kitchen, we will be setting up from 2 to 4. No peanuts or nut products, please. Thank you.
Hines, you had an announcement to share as well.
Morning. As Alicia mentioned, the White Gift Sunday is on December the 10th, and I just wanted to talk a bit about outreach. As you are all aware, outreach is quite an active committee, and we're financially assisting many local and international causes. Internationally, we've supported Operation Smile, And at one of our meetings, we had one of the OR nurses come to speak about her trip to Rwanda, which was sponsored by Operation Smile. It was actually quite amazing to hear how 1 hour operation could change her life forever. And she recently just went to the Congo to work on another Operation Smile operation. We've also funded the Canadian Food Grains Bank, Child Haven International, Leprosy Relief, Medicines Sans Frontiers, and the Stephen Lewis Foundation. Locally, we also support quite a few charities and organizations, one of them being the St. John Milk Fund, and also the KV Oasis Center. And since the center opened in 1 year, there's over 360 kids that go there as or their members. And I also wanted to mention, about once a week, they feed about 8 or 10 of the boys who really have no meals, and they stay at the center all evening, and so that some of the people that are volunteering decided to have a meal there. Also, the Elizabeth Fry Society, the KP Firefighters Christmas Appeal, AIDS St. John, and the St. John Boys and Girls Club lunch program. And I mentioned last year too, there's over 100 children that are being fed every lunch at the Boys and Girls Club, and for many of them, it's their only meal for the week. And on Fridays, they get a little bag so they can have meals on the weekends. So as you can see, there's quite a bit of need in our community. And Amy Shanks came to speak to one of our meetings as well. And there's currently over 450 kids that go through the door every day. So you do a lot of good work in the community. We also assist many families within our community in needs throughout the year. It might be in the form of buying school supplies or helping out with their electric bills in the winter, or most importantly, buying groceries so they also have need. It should also be mentioned that we have successfully had local companies match our contribution, therefore doubling our contributions. As you can see, the white gift donations enables the committee to assist many different organizations and individuals. And over the past, we've received many more requests than we can assist. For those of us that are fortunate, we can contribute. It would be appreciated if you take home the envelopes, which were supposed to be here this week, but they'll be next week, and return it within 2 weeks. So on behalf of our committee, I'd like to personally thank you for everything that you've done and continue to support outreach. Thank you.
Before I invite Christopher to come forward, are there any other announcements to share this morning? The announcement many of you have been asking about.
Well, I have a pre-announcement first. Last week we had our AvGen order deadline. We purchased over $6,500 worth of gift cards last week, which represented $300 in profit for the church. We are going to put one more order in before the holidays, because I know some of you may have been caught off guard and not ready to do that last week. So there will be an order going in December 10th for AvGen cards, and that will be the last one of the year, and they will be back in time for Christmas, although possibly not in time if you're mailing them away. So now to the big event that everybody's asking about. If you were around here from basically Wednesday until last night at supper time, you will have seen the flurry of activity and the beauty that is Christmas Festival of Trees here at St. David's, the fourth annual, right, this year? Yes. The fourth annual event. We had 27 trees, 7 wreaths, 109 auction items. Over 325 people came through the doors over the course of the time we were opened. And we also this year, for the first time, had sponsors, and I just want to acknowledge those folks. Our silver sponsor was Hope Grant Insurance, and we had 4 bronze sponsors: Sun Life Financial, Advantage Auto Glass, The Word Is Out Christian Bookstore, and Kevin Doucette of Fundy Honda. So can we just give our sponsors a round of applause? Now, every year we have buckets out for people to vote on their favorite trees, and again, they did that this year. So I have some trophy presentations to make. The third place tree this year was Happy Highlands, and that was placed by the Forever Highland Dance Troupe. Is there anybody from the Forever Highland Dance Troupe here that might want to come and accept this? That would be great. Come on up, sweetie. We didn't think we'd have anybody here from the Highland Dance Troupe. Our second place goes to Christmas in PEI, submitted by the McKinnon family. And finally, our first place, I think they keep racking these up, goes to Cynthia Doyle for Reindeer on Broadway. Now let's get into the exciting parts. This is the dollars and cents parts. I will tell you that this is the best Festival of Trees we've had yet. So, for admissions, I'm just going to go down each of our areas. Those of you that are quick at mental math, Mike Doyle. Admissions, $860.35. Pie sales, new this year, apple pies. We sold out by 2 o'clock, $587. Ornaments, so those were the wreath ornaments that were made by the Doyle family and the Snowflake Memorial ornaments, $97. Oh, just wait, there's more. Santa's Secret Toy Shop upstairs, $148.20. I want you to note, that was mostly in quarters and loonies. That's a lot of merchandise. The jewelry sale, $1,182. The silent auction, so these are just the silent auction items, $2,194. The trees and the wreaths, $1,292. And finally, our sponsorships of $650. So if you've done the quick mental math, we have a total this year, before expenses, which are about $200, of $7,000.55. Now, if Mike wasn't dancing after Game Changer, he'll definitely be dancing now. And I also want to put that into perspective. Between our clothing sale this year, our Game Changer event this fall, and these events, the community, not just us here at St. David's, the community has helped us to raise over $20,000 to support the ongoing ministries and programs of St. David's United Church. That includes outreach funds that go back out. I mean, I'm including those in those funds that come in and go back out for the committee. I do want to make a special mention of Megan Rayburn. Megan has been working, just wait. Megan has been working with us on a government grant through the Youth Employment Fund since June. We tasked her with Festival of Trees as her project this fall. She sent us a note last night that said, so I worked 79 hours this week. And that's just this week. That doesn't include the time that she was out, working the pavement and getting those new sponsors, getting the many silent auction items from the businesses in the Rossay-Quispamsis area. She spent hundreds of hours to make sure that this event was a success, and has also been a huge help to Alicia and myself, and while Reverend Sean was here, in helping us to promote St. David's within the community. So big round of applause and thank you to Megan for all the time she did. And also a huge thank you to you, the congregation, because if you didn't support these events and if you didn't promote all of these various events that we do throughout the year, to your friends, to your family, and come and support them yourselves, then we wouldn't have the success and the fun times. I mean, the energy that was in the building the last 2 days here was definitely palpable, and you could hear people talk about how this has officially launched their Christmas season for them and the mood. So thank you for all of your support.
And I just want to add on to what Christopher said and also say a special thank you to all the members of the fundraising committee and all who volunteered in the months and weeks leading up to this in the last few days. Last week I had spoke about sharing our talents. This weekend certainly was a representation of some of the many, many, many talents that St. David's has. As we gather here today, your being here is a gift. Each of us being here is a blessing. We gather to share our joys and concerns in this community of faith, We lift up our prayers for ourselves, our family, our friends, the community, and the greater world. Are there any celebrations that you would like to share today? You're having a grandson. Congratulations, that's very exciting news. This is also birthday Sunday, and we will be having cake together in the church or in the gym after the service.
Jerry Pond was officially invested into the Order of Canada.
Yes. Jerry Pond was invested into the Order of Canada over the weekend as well. Are there any worries or concerns that we would like to share and pray for today as a community of faith? The congregation of St. George, who had a large amount of damage done over the weekend. The Boyer family? Moyer family, sorry. So as a community, we gather together during all moments in our life and faith with those we've named and left unnamed. We lift them up to God. We light our Christ candle to show the light that comes into the world and to remind us to share this light with all. As we begin our worship this morning, I'll invite you to stand as able and join us in singing of our opening hymn, Let Us Build a House, and that will be on the screen.
Build a house where love can are the body of Jesus, the hand-clapping, toe-tapping, heart-pumping, mouth-tasting, arms embracing, justice-seeking, hymn-singing, love-making, bread-breaking, risk-taking body of Jesus. Born from one spirit, we are members of one body. Many and varied in gender, color, sexuality, age, class, and ability. We are members of Jesus' beautiful body. None of us can say to another, I have no need of you. Only together can we find wholeness. None of us can say to another, I will not care for you. For we are all connected like muscle and bone. If one suffers, we all suffer. If one rejoices, we all rejoice. Thanks be to God who has made us one. Let us worship God. Love all your creation, all the earth and every grain of sand in it. May we love every leaf, every ray of your light, love the animals, love the plants, love each separate thing. If you love each thing, you will perceive the mystery of God in all. And when you perceive this, you will then grow every day to a fuller understanding of it, until you come at last to love the whole world with a love that will be all-embracing and universal. Amen.
I'm going to invite Jane Baird up to do the children's story, and any of the children who want to come join her, please come forward. And as she's coming forward, there's one name that we forgot to mention this morning, and it's always a risk you take when you're thanking people. But I just want to thank Barb McDonald and your team for all the work you did with the jewelry sale. So thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Come and join me, please. All right. Lots of little faces and big faces. I don't know what you're doing. What are you doing? Max. Putting up the camera. Okay. Is that so everyone can see my feet? Oh, there I am. Well, I want you to see my feet because I want you to see my socks. Can you see my socks? Can you see my socks down there, Moira? Yeah, there's something kind of funny about my socks. Are they the same or are they different? They're different? Are you sure they're different? And they're the same. Well, what's different? Yeah, they're same and they're different. They fit on my feet. My feet are the same, so they're the same size. And you know, I made these socks, so I know they're the same. I made the cuffs blue and the legs striped. I turned the heel. That's what you call it when you're knitting. You turn the heel. But I ran out of the color, of one color. So I made the other one plain blue. They're the same, but they're also different, aren't they? Now, I have over here a basket full of Smarties. Do you love Smarties? Well, you're going to get some Smarties. We'll send them down to Sunday school, and you can share them. Be sure to share them with your teachers, too. So are Smarties all the same, or are they all different? They're different. They're all different colors. They are. But they're also the same, aren't they? Like they're all round like this. None of them are the size, shape of my finger or anything else. They're all round. They're all about this thick, right? And when you bite into them, what do they taste like? They don't taste like mashed potatoes, broccoli, ketchup. They're all chocolate, so they're all the same, except for one thing. The color, they're all different. So they're just like you and me. We're all the same too, aren't we? We have head and our shoulders and eyes and ears and nose and mouth and arms and hands, and we have so many things about us that are all the same, but we're all different, aren't we? Yeah, that's right. The same but different. Now, when Jesus lived in the world, he had many, many friends, and people flocked to him because he was such a friendly man. And he saw everybody as a child of God, as he was. The same and yet different. Some of his friends said, oh, no, no, no. I don't think you should spend time with that person or that person for one reason or another. And Jesus said, no, we're all the same. We're all the children of God. And we have to remember to get past what our eyes might tell us. Think about it. We're all the same. What our hearts tell us, that we're all the same. So there's one other way we're all the same. Birthdays. We all have a birthday, don't we? And this is Birthday Sunday, so Christopher's going to play the birthday song. And we'll all sing with him. I forgot to ask whether any of you had a November birthday. Yes. How about out in the congregation? A few November birthdays? Oh, is Nancy not here this Sunday? I know Nancy had a November birthday. I heard it on the radio. Yes. Now we'll sing, Lord, listen to your children, and then we'll say the Lord's Prayer together. Amen. Carry it out and share it with everybody.
This morning's first reading is from Romans chapter 12, verses 15 to 18. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Weep with those who weep. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be haughty, but associate with the lowly. Do not claim to be wiser than you are. Do not repay anyone evil for evil, but take thought for what is noble in the sight of all. If it is possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. Our psalm this morning is Psalm 139 and can be found on page 861 of Voices United or on the screen. O God, you have searched me and know me. You know when I sit down and rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar.
You discern my path and the places I rest. You are familiar with all my ways.
Before a word is on my tongue, you know it, O God, completely. You guard me from behind and before, and lay your hand upon me.
It is beyond my knowledge. It is a mystery. I cannot fathom it. Lord, you have searched me. You know me through and through.
It was you who formed my inward parts. You fashioned me in my mother's womb.
I praise you, for I am fearfully, wonderfully made. Wonders are your works that I know very well.
My frame was not hidden from you when I was being fashioned in secret, intricately woven in the mystery of clay.
Your eyes saw my substance taking shape. In your book my every day was recorded. All my days were fashioned, even before they came to be. Lord, you have searched me. You know me through and through.
How deep your designs are to me, O God. How great their number.
I try to count them, but they are more than the sand. I come to the end. I am still with you.
Search me, O God, and know my heart.
Test me and know my thoughts.
Watch closely, lest I follow the path of error.
And guide me in the everlasting way. Lord, you have searched me. You know me through and through.
This morning's gospel reading is from Matthew chapter 5, verses 1 to 10, and verses 13 and 14. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up to the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. Then he began to speak and taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. You are the salt of the earth, but if salt has lost its taste, how can its saltness be restored? It's no longer good for anything, but is thrown out and is trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid."
Hear the word of Scripture. Pray, pause, reflect, and in silence, enjoy this moment of sacred space.
Stand in the sun, and that bright afternoon. It is my pleasure to have been asked by the Affirmation Committee to participate in the service this morning. Margaret Atkinson has approached me a couple of times after church to discuss the work of the Affirmation Committee and to discuss diversity within public education. Always beware when Margaret Atkinson is looking for you. As some of you may know, I have spent my life in education. I have actually been in school since age 6. And in my 37-year work career, all within New Brunswick, I have seen many changes. And I continue to learn. And I know we have some educators in the sanctuary this morning, and often we learn from our students. It goes without saying, as teachers would know, there have been countless changes in curriculum, in teaching strategies, and in the resources we have to support students and their learning. But in addition to teaching, and by policy, we strive to provide safe, positive, and inclusive learning environments for all students. Over time, we have seen diversity in the 23,000 students who come through the doors each and every day of our 70 schools from Grand Manan Island to Sussex Corner. Public education lives diversity every day. And on one hand, it's something we celebrate, but to be honest, it can be quite a challenge for us as well. This morning, I'd like to touch on 4 areas of diversity in schools. The first is students with special needs and how they are integrated into our schools. When I began my career in the 80s in Sussex Corner, we had the first education assistant that was hired in the area to support students with special needs. And now in our school district, we employ 700 education assistants to support teachers every day in integrating students with needs into their classrooms. Some of our students today have very serious medical conditions, and our education assistants require specialized training. We have students who are nonverbal, others who may be receiving treatments for cancer, students who have seizures or are very serious diabetics. Students can have mobility issues, and we are challenged by that because we often have very old infrastructure, and we need wheelchair accessible washrooms, we need ramps, we need doors with automatic opening devices, we often need elevators. And I can tell you firsthand the complexities of adding an elevator to a 60-year-old building. I've prepared some slides this morning, and the first one shows a boy named Josh, a middle school student, and the school raised funds to have a lift added to the theater at Josh's middle school, to allow him to be on the stage with the other students. And in this picture, Josh had just participated in the school's walk in support of the Children's Wish Foundation. And his principal sent me that picture and said that for me, this shows diversity and including all students. The next slide shows Kira. Kira is an elementary age student confined to her wheelchair or to a special bed at the school. And both Josh and Kira are no longer with us. And I can tell you how sad it was when we had to work with the school over the loss of those 2 children in the last while. This little gal just in the month of May last school year. Sometimes we think our schools are welcoming to those with mobility issues. until you meet with a parent who explains to you that when she drops her child off in their wheelchair-accessible van, our curbs are not wheelchair-friendly. Or we may have the snow removal contractor who needs to be reminded not to pile snow in the disabled parking spaces. We have students who travel on special needs buses, which can accommodate a wheelchair. And now, when you see newer school buses, the full-size buses are equipped to handle the wheelchairs, so the students can all come into school together. I can think of 2 schools that have had extensive theater renovations and have included in an area at the front for those with wheelchairs, so that they don't always have to sit at the back of the theater. We have grown, and we have to continue to grow and learn from our students and what they need. We see service dogs in our schools. We have 3 service dogs for students with autism. And I can tell you, when those dogs were first coming to the schools, there were lots of anxious moments. There were people who asked how this was going to work. What if we have kids who are allergic to dogs? Or worse still, what if the service dog bites somebody? Well, it hasn't happened yet. But in a St. John's school, on the next slide, we have a service dog for a teacher due to her sight challenges. This is Farley, and Farley is an official member of the staff at one of our high schools. We do have students with significant medical needs, and this continues to evolve. New schools, like our Chris Saunders Memorial School here in Quispamsis, are built with special care rooms, and I've attached the sign on the next slide from the door at Chris Saunders School. These schools come complete with specialized equipment, from change tables to showers, and on the next slide, you'll see a lift. And these specialized lifts can be used to move students with mobility challenges, from wheelchair to change table or flush. Students today are very accepting of special needs students. They look out for them. In more recent years, we see students with very diverse mental health needs. This has been a journey, an ongoing journey, of education for staff and for students, as it is more and more prevalent in our society. We often can't see the mental health issue, and it is not as obvious to us who requires support or sometimes how to support them. I meet with high school students from time to time, and last year it was something that they raised. They acknowledged that they have friends with mental health struggles, and they want to know what they can do to support them. What should they say? Where can they direct them for help? Student mental health issues can range from anxiety, school avoidance, eating disorders, low self-esteem, to students who will engage in cutting and self-harm behaviors, to those who talk of suicide. Tomorrow in St. John, the high schools in southern New Brunswick will come together for our first ever mental health student forum. We need to hear from the youth. It is important for students to be physically fit, but also to be mentally fit. It is so important for the young and even the not so young to talk about their feelings, to have positive interactions and relationships with others. Schools are teaching students from a very young age skills of what we call resiliency. It is important that students are equipped with coping skills so that they can be strong when something bad happens in their lives. We see more students now with severe, life-threatening allergies, a topic which is very close to this church and the schools in this community. This has been an education for many schools across southern New Brunswick, for staff, for students, and often for parents. The next couple of slides show signage that you would see in all schools. This one is for scent-free, and the next one, nut and peanut allergies. These two signs look so easy, but they take a lot of education and monitoring, as sometimes people don't take them seriously. Through the volunteers from the Sweet Caroline Foundation, many students have been taught to administer an EpiPen with the message that you could save a life. Many of our schools, through the generosity of community partners, would have a box on the wall, such as this one, a picture I took at Rossay High, with an adult and a child-size EpiPen. And we hear stories of how they have been used. On the next slide, we see an AED, again, a picture taken at Rossay High School, the automated external defibrillator. And these, more and more, are being placed in schools as they are community buildings. At least 2 of our elementary schools, we have placed AED machines because of students with significant health issues, and staff are trained in their use. Again, the diverse needs of young people, K to 12. Secondly, we see students from diverse economic backgrounds, and Heinz, you touched a bit on that this morning with your message. And certainly this can vary from one community to the next, as I compare our communities here in the Kennebecasis Valley to the inner city schools of St. John. Many students require support, be it a breakfast, a lunch, school supplies, assistance paying student fees, sports fees, skates, sneakers, a dress for the prom, or, as we heard this morning, Christmas gifts. Our local community in the Valley is not exempt from this, and I can tell you firsthand that the local schools are very appreciative of the outreach from this church. And I admire those of you who give of your time for the clothing sale, for the yard sale, and the tireless work of those who give of their time every Wednesday for Katie Lunch. We have some schools that actually put together backpacks of food to go home with families on the weekends so that the family has food. Schools never ever want a child to feel singled out for this additional support, and they are very discreet in how it is provided. I can tell you in St. John that we would have students who have never been across the Harbor Bridge, and I know that's difficult for us to imagine. The third area of diversity celebrated in our schools is culture. And the next slide shows a bulletin board shared by one of our area schools. We are seeing many international students coming to our area, perhaps for a term, for a year, or longer, and that would be here in the Valley. We have students from China, Korea, Israel, Turkey, Germany, and Brazil. And it will be 2 years ago in January when many Syrian families moved to the St. John area. The international students only enrich our environments. A few weeks ago, CBC did a series on the Syrian families within Hazen White St. Francis School in St. John. That school now has half of its students are Syrians. And the next slide was one that school shared with me for today. We would all agree that accommodating these students is challenging. Many have no English skills, huge gaps in their education. Some have experienced such trauma that they require extensive guidance and mental health support. Students from different cultures are welcomed in schools, but again, we have to be educated about those cultures, and diversity is often about education. In schools, you may know we practice lockdowns. where students moved to an area quickly in the classroom where they couldn't be seen if there were to be an intruder in the hallway. This drill for some international students was very traumatic, and now we have to prepare them for this and explain why we do it. Something simple like the presence of police officers in schools, very common to us. We teach children that the police are our friends, but in some countries, that is not the case. The next slide, I believe, shows Halloween at one of our schools, and we actually had to caution schools about how they celebrate Halloween with many of our international students. The idea of dressing up, disguising yourself, having costumes that may have blood or missing limbs, again, very traumatic for some of our international students. The next slide shows a bulletin board with the word welcome in many languages. The fourth and final area of diversity is sexual orientation and LGBTQ. And this has been a journey of education for us over the last 2 years in Anglophone South School District, with the implementation by our District Education Council of a policy on LGBTQ and sexual orientation. Our goal as a school district is to create learning environments that are both welcoming and affirming for sexual minority youth. There are some very alarming statistics with respect to bullying and LGBTQ students, and we have to do all we can to keep those students safe. I do believe that in our school district, it has been an adult journey, and again, we learn from the students. The letters LGBTQ stand for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning. A few years ago in the district, a principal approached me and asked me what those 5 letters stood for. And I can say with confidence today that we wouldn't have that happen. We've done a lot in this area. We have 1,670 teachers in southern New Brunswick, and all have worked through, together with their principal, a package of materials on LGBTQ. Our Department of Education has provided each school a resource binder of information to educate us so we better understand what LGBTQ inclusive education is and what it looks like at elementary school, middle school, and high school. Many middle and high schools have GSAs, Gay Straight Alliance Groups. GSAs are official student clubs with LGBTQ and heterosexual student membership, and typically a staff person or 2 who serve as advisors. The next slide shows a bulletin board from Forest Hills School in East St. John. Students in a school with a GSA know that they have at least 1 or 2 adults that they can talk to about their LGBTQ matters. The purpose of the GSA is to provide a much-needed safe space in which LGBTQ students and allies can work together on making their schools more welcoming for sexual and gender minority students. The clubs may be called by another name, such as a Rainbow Club, a Human Rights Club, or the next slide of a bulletin board showing a Youth Equality Alliance group. These groups can also become a safe haven for students who have LGBTQ parents. Last year, our district held 2 training sessions for GSA staff advisors, a time for those with well-established groups to assist those who were struggling or just getting started. I had the pleasure a few weekends ago of attending the Provincial Pride in Education workshop in Fredericton, and we had most of our high schools represented. We had half of the total number of participants. Again, it would be a mix of LGBTQ students and other students who are their supporters. The next slide is actually a picture that I took in Moncton a few weeks ago. Many crosswalks on the main street in Moncton are painted as rainbows. You may recall in the media a few weeks ago, the GSA group at St. Stephen Middle School made a request to the town to have the crosswalk painted behind their school. The initial reaction and how that played out in the media was very, very unfortunate. I will say we all worked together that week with the mayor, and considerable education happened over a few days, and the plan was in place last week for the crosswalk to be painted. A similar request was made to the St. John Council by two of our schools located on Manawaganish Road in West St. John. The town of Hampton, if you've been through there, at their traffic circle, they have crosswalks in rainbow colors. The next slide shows the front steps of Rothsay High School, an initiative of their student group called Gender and Sexuality Alliance. The students stated in the Telegraph Journal that they want everyone to feel accepted at Rothsay High. Our learnings on LGBTQ have also made us more mindful of the pronouns and our reference to boys and girls. In schools, traditionally, we have often had competitions, the boys versus the girls, or asking girls to line up here and boys to line up in another area. A high school a couple of years ago had a food drive. Again, it was the boys against the girls. And there were some students who came to the principal explaining that they are transgender and they weren't sure where to put their food donations. So the learning continues to evolve for us in schools. Some schools are adding books to their collections, which are LGBT inclusive. Seeing families reflected in picture books in the classroom and in the libraries will help children from LGBTQ families feel welcome and valued. It is important for all students to understand that families and people are unique. As Jane said, we're all the same, but we're all different. Washrooms can be another challenge, as students may not feel comfortable using a designated boys' or a designated girls' washroom. In our schools, our washrooms are large with multiple facilities in the same space. Our schools are being very creative, again inside old buildings, finding a single washroom that would have a sign such as the one on the next slide, or now signs that just say the word washroom, as it may not only be LGBTQ students who prefer to use a private washroom. Again, new schools are built with gender-neutral washroom spaces. I think my final slide is a good summary. The words, "You belong." We have looked briefly this morning at diversity in our schools, and I could talk a long time about school. That's why I'm sticking to my notes. We've talked about health, both physical and mental. We've talked about different economic backgrounds. We've talked about cultures, and we've talked about sexual orientation. The goal of our schools is to ensure that students have a safe, an inclusive, and a welcoming environment. And this has evolved over time, and it's going to continue to evolve as we educate ourselves. We have so many wonderful young people in our schools, and they are our future. In closing this morning, as a church community, you are to be commended for entering the process of becoming an affirming church. We also want this church to be a safe, inclusive, and welcoming environment for everyone. As it is for us in schools, it is about educating and looking closely at our messages and how we do things so that we are intentional about really valuing and including everyone with the message on the screen, you belong.
Don't be discouraged or realize it's hard to take courage in a world full of people. You can lose sight of it, all the darkness inside to make you feel so small. Show me a smile then. Don't be unhappy, can't remember when
I last saw you laughing.
This world makes you crazy, and you've taken all you can bear. Just
call me up, 'cause I will always be there.
And I see your true colors shine. I see your true colors. That's why I love you.
So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful.
I see your true colors shining.
True colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful. Oh, like a rainbow.
Oh, can remember
I last saw you laughing. Oh, this world makes you crazy, and you've taken all you can bear. Just call me up, 'cause I will always be there. And I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you.
So
don't be afraid. Show your true colors. True colors are beautiful. Oh, like a rainbow. Oh.
God invites us into relationship with the world and all creatures in it. Part of the way that we show our commitment to care for the world is through our gifts, which represent our commitment to share God's mission. Let us be thankful people as we share our gifts for the work of the church, this community, and around the world. Our offering will now be received. God of hope, unity, and promise, God of peace, God of love, accept these gifts by plate or by par that we now give back to you. May we be faithful stewards of the gifts you have entrusted to us. Amen.
Let us pray. God of hope, all of us are affected by the lives around us. At this time of year, as we move into the Advent season and prepare for the celebration of your Son coming into this world, we give thanks for signs of hope, for growing understanding, for changing attitudes and behavior, for greatest awareness and concern in your church. God of unity, bind us together with strong ties of love, that all churches will be places where everyone can find acceptance. May our church provide a welcome for all. May it be a place where care is given and received, where stories are told and heard, where fear is overcome by love, where you are to be found. God of promise, give us courage to run the race set before us. We look to you in prayer and action, for a day when all have access to education and information, for a day when all are accepted, included, and give care and support. Let us shed our cynicism, denial, selfishness, and laziness. May we surprise you as you surprise us. Amen.
As we conclude our time together this morning, I'll invite you to stand as able and join our voices in singing Spirit God, Be Our Breath. go from this place, may the love of God enfold you, the compassion of Christ surround you, and the Holy Spirit empower you, now and forever. Amen.